All right. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Beyond the Physical Summit. Thanks again for joining us. I'm here with Raw of Earth, as he goes by on Instagram, but I guess I can't say a good friend, but hopefully a future good friend, Raw. He has a degree in psychology and exercise science. He's worked professionally for 2 decades teaching health, exercise, psychology, consciousness, meditation, and ancient spiritual practices. He's a social media creator and is a top business leader, trainer, and on the board with Purium Superfoods. So, Ra, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything that you would like to add for us to learn about you right off the bat?
No, I'm super excited about a super potent session that we're going to have here.
Yes, I agree. So in the previous conversations that we have had, you mentioned to me about being a gym owner and learning how to work with we'll say the quantum field. Maybe we don't, I know when I started, I didn't know the vocabulary of what I was doing to begin with, but along with the whole concept of beyond the physical, the growth beyond or in the metaphysical world as well as the digital, but I think this conversation is going to be more geared towards that metaphysical growth.
Mhm.
What did you notice, or what were the first kind of key insights or experiences that you had that started to bring your awareness beyond the third dimension, beyond this physical world that we can see, hear, taste, and touch?
So I had a taste or an inkling that something else was going on beyond what we're taught in schools from a very young age. I started noticing that my intentions directly correlated with whatever manifested in reality. And a lot of times they had to do with negative intentions, like being a kid and knocking over garbage cans with my bike and then immediately falling flat on my face, or trying to knock over mailboxes with a hockey stick and smashing my car window instead. Like, I started recognizing through negative actions the negative consequences. And that led me to not ever lying and really being very intentional and careful with my actions and even my thoughts. Definitely my thoughts, like what I was thinking about. And so I kind of was recognizing something was there. But then it was when I owned gyms, and I'm very injured. I had a lifetime full of hockey, and I was a fighter. I was the bruiser. So my body's really injured. And I got into gyms. I developed some CrossFit gyms in downtown LA. And I was deciding to go towards retirement, to step away from competing. And so I got heavily into training and coaching other athletes, people that work out from the time they get up to the time they go to sleep. They're 100% focused on fitness so they can go to competitions and win them, win money, win clients, win prestige. And I was spending an entire year coaching these people and not working out at all. I was actually just going to the beach, hanging out in the sun and relaxing, going away from my gym, being around other fitness people. In Santa Monica, there's the Santa Monica rings. So there's a bunch of acrobats. So I was hanging around fitness people, but not really doing anything, just chilling. And competition season came around, and all of my athletes that I just spent an entire year training started doing the qualifying competition workouts. And I kind of just like waved my arms around a little bit, and I'm like, I think I can do this. And I ended up beating their scores without me working out for an entire year. And it wasn't just one workout. I did this over a number of years where I wouldn't touch a barbell for 10 months. And then I would qualify in the top few hundred people in the world going to these competitions. Out of hundreds of thousands of people, I was, the top 1% of 1% without really training. And being a gym owner, I started asking myself the question, how is it possible that I'm accessing power to perform on a physical landscape if I'm not training myself in the conventional methods that as a gym owner I was taught, and I'm essentially selling to the public as a way to make yourself stronger, faster, healthier. And so for many, many years, I was searching and digging, and I started to find out that sunlight, water, air, earthing, these are things that a lot of traditions call the elements. Even you can throw ether in there. And I started realizing that, oh, I'm actually accessing power that's all around us all the time. And I must be able to use this within a physical landscape with my intention to literally be able to get on a podium versus a field of other guys that are working out in the gym all day long. And I was able to prove that on the gym floor. I eventually closed my gyms and I started just doing experiments within reality. And I did a lot of experiments, such as like, can I close my business and still live in houses at the top of the Hollywood Hills, still date attractive women? You know, can I just grow out my face and my hair and not take care of myself? Am I still attractive to society? And I just started doing all these experiments to go to the opposite way of what we're taught, and started sort of just like uncovering what else is there all around us. It's a little bit.
Right.
It's a 5-minute version explanation.
I get that for sure. It's like it takes a lifetime to get here, and not only
Right.
that, the lifetimes before that to get here. How can we put that in 5 minutes? But I think one of the things that for me really personally draws me to you is that you have embodied a level of magnetism that is felt. And that to me sounds like what you're just describing, is that that magnetism is okay, well, if I can make myself less attractive physically, but magnetically things are still coming to me, what is that? Like
Hmm.
what is that, and how do we explore it? And I have a different story. It's a little bit similar, but I too have a degree in psychology. I had to understand why my upbringing was the way my upbringing was. It was like there was so much madness. I needed to clear something. But I also had raging addiction problems. And when I say raging, I mean super high functioning. I knew how to hide it. I knew how to keep it in like Thursday to Sunday mode. And then I'd go into school and I was on the dean's list. I was on a roll. I was like knocking it out of the park in school and knocking it out of the park in the party scene as well. And I got to a point where I was like, there has to be something more. Like this
Hmm.
can't be just what life is. There has to be something more. And so there was this internal curiosity, similar to what you're saying, is like there was an internal curiosity is, well, if I can do this, then I can do this. And if I could do this, then I could do this. And that's when I stumbled into a psychic institute and turned my own wizardry up in a completely different way that was the best way I can describe it is it was like jumping on a bike. I didn't know that I could ride, and knowing exactly how the whole system like worked. And so it was more of like a clicking into something that was already inside of me rather than learning how to do that. And I believe that both of those things are available to us. So you also mentioned that you do coaching and teaching and mentoring, and obviously that's part of your, divine genome, is that's your role. So what is it that you get most excited to teach people about? Is there like a moment when you're working with somebody that really stands out to you, that is your favorite part of working with people?
Well, I'm an athlete. I come from the gym world. I played hockey since I was 3 years old to 23 years old. And for me, I love teaching. I love taking people through exercises. And what a lot of people don't realize is that just like we can exercise our body and we can start to grasp onto physical concepts such as balance or strength or agility, the same is true with our mindset and even our spiritual capabilities. These things can be practiced. And a lot of times people just leave it up to life. The randomness of life is going to give you life experience. And that's like just leaving up the randomness of life to allow you to develop a physical, capable body. There will be physical capabilities, but if you want elite mastery of your physical body, setting aside an hour or two or five a day to practice physical skills will allow you to have a mastery of your physical body within this physical reality. Well, we are also a mental being, an emotional being, a spiritual being within a mental landscape, an emotional landscape, and a spiritual landscape. And we can use the same exact foundational idea of exercise and practice to practice our mindset, practice our emotional handle on the energies that flow through our body, and practice our spiritualism. So, really, either coming up with or cultivating exercises for people is something that I really enjoy, because I can watch them just like I can watch somebody walk on their hands for the first time. I can watch somebody start to recalibrate how they relate to that thing in the past that's been haunting them with trauma in their current life. I can see them and watch them and support them to rework that so they can actually discover how that's useful and helpful for them, and they can really start filling in the missing components of their mindset that they never really knew that they had. So we can take victims and help them realize that because they went through this, they now have certain powers that many other people don't have that experience, and they can use that in their current relationships, in their future relationships, in their future career choices. And so for me, I just really enjoy exercises.
Yeah, I've said it to my clients over and over again because I teach people essentially to do what I do in their own way, which is working with clients, helping people move through stuff. And for me, it's that moment of that you're speaking to. It's that moment where you notice the shift has happened. That moment where like the light bulb goes on and the weight falls off their shoulder or the story dissipates and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like this whole new like system has opened up and now I'm not operating from this subconscious like loop that I didn't even know was there." I have one of my favorite meditations is shifting what I call shifting memories from the past. And it's going to a traumatic event and basically reframing it, stopping time, working with time, all this fun stuff. But what I've noticed with it, and this happened for myself the first time I did it, is that there's a domino effect in the sense that the memories themselves recalibrate. And it's like the way that you associate with the circumstances that have happened since that point of trauma then rearrange. And the other thing that I've also noticed for myself is that it's almost like it wipes a memory bank. Like there are
Hmm.
certain points of my memory that it's not repressed or anything. It's just simply that that information is no longer useful or is no longer being utilized. And so it shifts this like database that defines our identity or who we think we are by means of these like the rearranging of the pieces that
Right.
that shape how we see ourselves.
Yeah. I have a program called Skillful Psyche, which is like it's the call to exercise, right? Working on the
Right.
skill of our psyche. And my preferred method, like you said, meditation, my preferred method is journaling. So people are writing down, they're doing writing exercises in every one of the sessions. And then they even verbalize it. They talk out what they wrote down. And then so there's just many, first they think about it, then they write it down, then they're saying it. So there's like many times that they're reliving it. And for me, I feel that it's a lot stronger. We can't just like wish that the things in the past didn't happen or the things in the past didn't affect us. It's a lot stronger and more consistent to positive change if there's something that overrides that, right? Just like noise canceling headphones, they don't actually block out the noise. There's kind of like a vibrational speaker that points out, and as noise comes in, the reverse frequency is played so that you hear silence. And so if you have certain emotions or certain thought states, there's ways to play with exercises so that you're basically filling in the reverse polarity of that. And then that's where you're saying, like, then you get that letting go, that releasing. But
Mhm.
it's not so much of just like wishing it to go away. Like, for me, in my work, I feel like it's an overwriting, and it's an overwriting of either a stronger vibration so that there's a positive or a lightness left behind, or is there's a as equal where it just kind of is like is an erasing.
Right. Yeah, I I would call that like the anecdote. What is the anecdotal tone, or
Mm.
what is the anecdotal frequency? What is the anecdotal emotion that will like unhook whatever is hooked that's creating that tension or that strife or the struggle or whatever it is? It's like finding that button that essentially is a tone that we can fabricate by the awareness of knowing what's there. It's like we become the generator of our own anecdotal tone, which then puts the power of healing all, into our own hands. And that is also where I get really excited to see that shift in when people take that stride. And I've always said, or not, it's not even like I've always said, but it's like when the student takes the lesson and makes it their own in a way that really serves them to be able to walk away with it. Like we can teach the concept, but it doesn't really become embodied until a person identifies how it works for them, understands it from the inside out, and then recreate it in a way that serves and works for them in a really beautiful way. So I want to ask you a question as as a man, and that it's a phrase that I don't really like, as a woman or as a man, but I'm gonna go there, because I really see you as a unique human, just like in the field, you stand out. And one of the things that I have noticed as a female, as a conscious female, in a lot of new age circles and new age waves, a majority of my clients, the people that purchase my psychic development programs, are women. That there's a gap of men that are willing to lean into their power, and that are willing to face what it means to fully embody their power, not their arrogance or how they think about themselves or the egoic constructs. So can you speak to that, from the perspective? And I love that you shared that you have the background of fighting and being, as you would say, a brute, and being in a very, very masculine way. And how has that journey been for you to embody the power, embody your intuition, understand more of your own energetic capabilities?
So something that I don't think that females recognize in men is that we're very linearly focused in a single direction, one direction. That's kind of like we have one track mind. And that's from an evolutionary perspective. Men do risk, like they're made, if we're speaking from an evolutionary concept, which I know may or may not be accurate, but just to make things simple, from an evolutionary concept, the men were out hunting. They needed 100% of their energy to be focused on a single task, because death could be otherwise if they're thinking about what their kids are doing. Whereas the female version of us is able to multitask, because it makes more sense to be able to cook, know where the kids are, chat with the other people. Like the females have multi tracks in their mind. And I feel that in the coaching space, like you're talking about, that women have more space to plug in to systems of self-development, because it's not so heavy for them. And I feel like men, it's really a heavy thing to do something with self-development if it's not supporting the direction that they're going. So I feel the trick is, when speaking to men, is to correlate how these other ways of being is going to support their direction. So we need to find out, number one, what their direction is for men, and allow them to witness how this is going to support it. But I feel like system wide, or worldwide, that's the reason why men are a little bit less open to being open, because it just they get afraid of how this is going to impact them on their current direction, if that makes any sense at all.
It absolutely does. And it's something that I muse at often. And to generalize in like media programming around, it's like little boys are programmed out of their emotions as far as sadness or crying or like feeling that kind of release, whereas little girls are programmed out of, you can't be angry, you must sit and be quiet. Like, we're programmed to be sugar and spice, and very sweet in that way. Well, as I've grown up, I've met a lot of deeply repressed anger in women, myself very much included. Like, I haven't really started tapping into my anger until my 30s. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize how angry I was about so many things. But I've also found that the the access to the divine feminine that is within all of us often is through the doorway of emotions, and often is through the doorway of our feeling sense. And I have a theory that the way that we are programmed in society very young, to negate certain emotions, keeps us from being able to access those doorways. Which is also why, like you're saying, it's heavy, or it can be a heavy experience for men to open in a multifaceted way, unless there's some sort of prize of like, okay, well, if you access your intuitive abilities and you step into the quantum field, it will expand your business, and you'll get more money, and you'll get a bigger house, and you might get a more attractive wife, or like whatever that the story is. But that there's a way to like access that knowledge within ourselves in a way that doesn't necessarily have to feel heavy. But if you could like speak to that block, what would you say to help a person, man or woman, but what would you say to help a person kind of step through that, the fear of opening that doorway to that intuitive knowledge within?
The thing with ourselves is that I think what speaks to a lot of men is that because they're familiar with a tool. And I view our body as like, let's one like many different things, but let's say a tool, or let's say an instrument. All right. So if I give a guitar to a guitar player, he's going to be able to produce very like awesome music, but I don't know how to play guitar. So if you give a guitar to me, the same exact guitar, it's going to be inharmonious and maybe even painful to listen to. And if we think about our bodies in that way, and I think a lot of people, again, understand that physically we can train ourselves. But if we don't know how to tune our instrument, tuning meaning mental states, what our thoughts are, what our emotions are, then life is going to be much like somebody playing a guitar who doesn't know how to play a guitar. And as we start to open up to all of the emotions, like you said, there's certain emotions that some of us are stronger at than others. And that's the case with everybody. Everybody has work to do. And being able to play music and create harmony within your life is essentially the root of happiness. And so the prize is that your life fits in harmony with the universe, as opposed to struggling to find a life that is sort of worth living. You're just kind of forcing day by day to make things fit. And I think that really starts with being able to tone your mental thoughts, your emotional feelings, and your faith within yourself and your life, and how it all fits into the universe. And so for me, it's just that sort of concept that like you can go through without practicing and learning how to play the game, but it's not going to, there's a big prize for learning the instrument of yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I was born with these abilities. I didn't understand they made me different, and I would say a huge majority of my 20s was in exploration of, why do I feel these ways? Why do these beings come and talk to me? What is going on? I know I'm not schizophrenic. I know I'm level-headed, but that exploration for me internally of understanding how to play the instrument, and how to get better at the game, basically. How do you continue to work with what is available to you in a really beautiful way? there was something that was coming up, and it's escaping me right now that I wanted to ask. So I'm sure it'll pop up again. But I love that analogy that you're using of like the harmony and the guitar player. And that's, I think that's something that I do want to emphasize in this, because even my example was, it was like jumping on a bike that I didn't know I could ride.
Hmm.
Some of us haven't even had the guitar handed to us to let us know where we're even at, if we know how to play or not. And I actually had an experience in Bali where we're having a fire jam around the fire and we're playing, and somebody had brought a harp. Well, I picked up the harp and was just able to absolutely play in harmony with everyone that was playing music. And I'd never touched a harp before. I'm not really like, I can kind of dabble with the ukulele and stuff, but it was one of those things that it was like, who knew? Who knew that was here? Who knew that that was
Right.
like accessible? And so I think a huge part of the gap is the availability to these conversations, the availability to even being able to acknowledge these as normal households. That's been one of my own personal
Right.
prerogatives in this world, is to make psychic a household name or a household word, that it's not something that is so fearful. And a lot of it comes down to like the vocabulary. Um, so with that, I just keep feeling to ask you, like, what is your favorite thing that you enjoy sharing with people? Like, what would be your, if you had to pick one favorite tool or one favorite exercise, what is your favorite one that you enjoy sharing?
So I mean, it's simple, and it's the connection with nature, because we are nature. We're not anything else. We are a mixture of light, air, earth, water, and some organizing function, whether you call that God or spirit or source, the morphic field, whatever that is. There's something that's guiding and organizing all of that. And just like a vegan person would use the argument that eating an animal is, you're eating the animal because basically the animal is eating the plants, you might as well just eat the plants. Well, you can go one step further than that, and you can consume and make sure that you're bathed in sunlight, and you're walking on the earth, and that you're breathing in air, and you understand and you have a relationship with breath. Breath actually means spirit. I should say spirit means breath. Inspire, right? That's you taking in spirit. And water, what the liquids, what the movement of liquid in our body is. And this is something that I can, I give signature talks on stage, is really how to connect with the elements. And when you actually start looking into what light is and what the earth is, and you start discovering that, wow, there's more, we weren't taught everything. That's what I like to open up the door to, because there's fear campaigns against the sun. We're taught also from a very young age not to be dirty. There's fear campaigns against being outside. It's looked down upon if you work outside even. So there's a lot of fear with things like the light. And so for me, light is one of the main focuses that I have, because I no matter how you look at it, it's the source. So and it's
Mhm.
connected. It's connected to something else, and it's carrying information, and it's telling the trees which shape to be in, and it's telling us, and reality itself, it's forming it into being. And we should really be connected to that and have a relationship with that.
Absolutely. I love that. And the word that just keeps coming to me as you're speaking is bioavailability. I took a vegan chef's training course when I was in Bali, and that was one of the, images that really stuck out to me, was the bioavailability that's in living foods. Before you cook them, before you process them, before anything happens, it's that bioavailability that's there. and the consumption of that bioavailability, the livingness that's in food, the light that creates the vegetables and the fruits that we're eating, and how much energy that gives us. That I would say in modern day America, we think that we need to eat X amount of, processed foods or meats or all these other things to have the energy. But ultimately, if we look at the energy in a different store, in a different light, that bioavailability actually fuels us in a much different and much lighter way that helps us to process so much more.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, you want to speak to that a little bit?
Most of us are going to die because something in our digestive system fails.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of stress that we go through that we don't even realize is because of our diet and the stress that our kidneys and our liver and our digestive organs have to go through to break down food to make it accessible for the body. It's not just the bioavailability, which is a beautiful concept, like you were talking about, but also if your body doesn't have an ability to absorb it, whether we're talking about light or even knowledge, like if you don't have an ability to absorb it, but speaking about food, like we want to make sure that our vessel is clean and available to extract the nutrients and the light and the prana from the foods that we're eating. But it's it's like everything, we want to be able to extract the wisdom out of a conversation. We want to extract the humor out of an entertainment movie if we're watching that, and being clean, being clear, being available to accept life is going to make all the difference in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm curious, as we mentioned in your introduction, that you are a leader in the company Purium. And Purium is I mean, it is a product that I have consumed for well over 5 years. I absolutely swear by it. But I'm curious, what really inspired you, one, to start working with Purium or to start taking Purium? And then what has been the leading inspiration to keep you in the company and as a representative for as long as you have?
Good question. So I own gyms and I shut them down when I started realizing that there's something more to accessing power and being healthy than just like lifting steel barbells up and down over and over and over and over again. And so I shut my gyms down because I was like, what else is there? And really I started getting into food and I wanted to start clearing up my vessel. So I started with Purium as a customer and it was amazing. And then I started to incorporate the business into my life. And what I found is that everything that I enjoy doing and align with this company represents, the values of the company are I would say even better than mine. You know, they're trying to completely change the entire supplement industry by making packaging plastic free. We're the first company of our size to make that transition, and then trying to transition the entire industry is the end goal. And also in my discoveries, I started realizing that we don't just have a head brain, we also have a heart brain. And that's why emotions are important to be in alignment. Well, we also have neurons in our gut. And a lot of people, there's a term called holobiont. Holobionts means that it's a collection of organisms to make up one life form. A collection of life forms to make up one organism. And that's what we are. A lot of us think that we're human, but there's actually more non-human cells in our body than human cells. So there's more bacteria in our body than human cells, which means that all of our thought processes, our emotions, everything that we're talking about during this entire hour is attributed to the mixture of what this bacteria is doing, telling you how to behave, what to crave, what to participate in. They're making a lot of the decisions for your body and for you. And if that's disrupted by corporate America, by chemtrails, by glyphosate that's sprayed on all of our entire food supply, by microplastics that's in everything, by things that are put into our environment on purpose to keep us dull. If our gut is compromised, then it's really compromising our entire system. So, from a product standpoint, I really see this as a way to open people up. I've talked to people that have literally had spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, spiritual like explosions upon a sip of Purium products. It doesn't happen to everyone. I would say like 3 people in the
They
5
have to
years
be
that I've
ready
been
for it, right?
right. I'd say, and then that's not something that you should strive for, right? But I'm just saying that these products have the power to realign the things in your body. And just for these, there's only been 3 people that out of the thousands. But like if it's your gut and that thing gets aligned, then it's gonna that energy is going to shoot up. And from a business standpoint, I really look at this as ascension. I'm helping to activate other people. And that's where we can leverage our power, right? Sitara, you're a teacher and you're teaching teachers, right? It's that same concept. That's what I've been doing my whole life. And I really feel like Purium allows me to do that because I can lift people up and show them a way that they can support others as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And I'm actually feeling inspired to share my story, which I don't think I have ever publicly before. And I don't think I've told you either. But um so I was getting ready to move to LA, which was a huge shift for me. And I had done like a 10-day Purium structure before. I then decided that I wanted to go a little bit deeper and do like a 40-day parasite, like let's knock them out, like full-blown reset sort of thing. So I did this right before I was moving to LA. I was in a huge state of transition. I decided to do no technology after 8 p.m. and no technology before 8 a.m., which meant I was taking more baths. I was reading a bit more. I was definitely more in a meditative state. And one morning I woke up at 6, was sitting on my couch in my meditation chair, and my future self, me at 50 years old, walked into the room. I had a sunken in living room. And so she just walked right in, and clairvoyantly I could see her, right? Because I'm a medium. So I could see her just clear as day. And she went on to show me where my life was at 50. She went on to show me where my programs are, how it accesses the world, like the whole, like basically the whole thing. And it was a very clear picture and very concise. And I was just able to have this conversation with her. And at the same time, I had already started to see this symbol, and I didn't know like what this, I had no other kind of connection to this symbol. I just started visually seeing it, and I knew that I wanted to get it on my hand. And so before she left that day, I said, wait. I've been thinking about getting this tattoo. Do we have the tattoo? And so she turned around and she showed me what is my hand, and I saw the tattoo. And so I turned around that day and I went and I got it. But I also know that the clarity of me being able to have that vision as crystal clear as it was in unison with clearing out my gut and clearing out my mental capacity, and also being ready and willing to receive those types of messages. And any time that I have been able to take the product consistently, I continue to have these awakened senses, like my peak experiences become more consistent. And I can tell that I call it vibrational integrity. It's like the entire makeup of your vibrational field. I know that mine is operating at a higher level. And if anything happens emotionally, or a challenge comes, or anything comes my way, I find that I don't ruminate and I don't dwell on it as often when my gut is clear. And that goes with fasting, or I've been a fruitarian at various points. I've done the raw vegan diet. I've done all sorts of different things. And I'm not a big foodie. I find food and for the preparation to be a little bit time consuming and a bit annoying. Like it's just not my
Hmm.
lane. And so I appreciate the shortcutting of being able to basically find those tones of higher vibrational currencies and the bioavailability from the level of integrity that is Purium, that is the product that is Purium, that has been, I would say it's a strong ally for me. It's a strong ally, and it's something that I continue to just lean on, especially in those times when, things are fast moving or I'm traveling or these things. It's like it helps so much, but it helps for me mostly consistently with keeping my vibration very high and my emotional landscape more clear because I feel like things just move out so much more easily. And so that's why I get really excited about it as a product, which is the only product that I talk about. It's the only product, and it's taken me like 5 years to come out of the closet and even really speak about openly. But I really admire your determination and your belief in the product and the company and how you've been able to show up in the way not only for yourself but also to show up for other people. Like sometimes I say that I go up to bat for other people against themselves. It's very similar in how we associate with food. So when we talk about a product that we're consuming, there's just a whole landscape that goes in with that whole thing. And so I really admire the way that you step forward in the way of speaking to something that you believe in and seeing also the transformations. And I'm sure you have a huge database of stories and testimonials of how it has served people in a really powerful and profound way.
Hmm. Yeah. And we guarantee it too. So we guarantee people's life will change. And that just doesn't mean physical, because as we're talking about, if you can align your gut, it just makes your emotions and your mental states click in all together. And we increase our power in reality with alignment, right? The more coherent we are as a field of energy, the stronger our field will be in relationship to other people's field of energy and the field of energy that is reality itself. And so being in alignment is the access to our power.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like I just keep saying that after you talk, so I'm just like agreeing with what it is that you're saying. Something else that popped up for me to share is I've done readings with tons of different kinds of people across tons of different things. It's one of the things, like, humans are so interesting to me. I see humans as my lane, right? We have the people that save the turtles, we have the people that save the
Hmm.
ocean, we have the people that are focused on the food industry. For me, it's people and heart consciousness. Awakening heart consciousness is my lane. And so when I've done these readings with people that have been on products, Purium and other products, I will include that as well. I've done these readings and I see their energy system as completely harmonious and completely balanced. And so that for me has also been a testament. Even people who work out a lot, it's like their field is more clear. There's less like gunk in the way of how energy flows through their systems, which for me is also a testament to health. And one of the ways that I describe your psychic awareness or the awareness of your energy body is that you didn't know that you had a stomach before you were in first grade, and you probably saw a diagram of the human anatomy, and then you learn, this is my stomach, this is my intestinal tract, this is how this works. Well, I see the same for the energy being in the energy body. It's that when you learn the energetic mechanics and the energetic anatomy of how your energy being works, you're able to function with it and work with it in a way that helps create that kind of um, conscious harmony. And so some of these superfoods that are out there are, they're helping to bridge that awareness without, it's almost like it's a shortcut. It's bridging the awareness without having to do all the extra work and all the extra homework because somebody else already has. And so that brings it into just such a more simple way to continue that kind of harmony so that what we're good at, staying in our lane, what our zone of
Right.
genius is, becomes a lot easier to do.
Yeah, and that's one of the main things that we do with Purium is we help out people that facilitate health and wellness or spiritual enhancements in other people. There's a lot of energy healers use Purium as part of their protocol. Like they won't even work with people unless they're consistently consuming the products because it just covers all their bases. They don't have to give diet plans to people. They don't have to worry about the chemical toxicity that's all around us because it's all just being cleansed out.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, absolutely. Well, Ra, I am just so honored by you. I'm so thankful. I'm sure I found you in some random way on social media, which I love that social media is such a strong tool in
Mhm.
that way. It's like our way to create these connections. And so I really appreciate the way that you show up in the world. Is there anything that you would like to say before we go ahead and close out this conversation?
I think that if people focused on this is something random that just came to me. If there could be an intention that people have that they can set where they can make somebody else the star for once, because that's what ultimately we're talking about. Like Sitara, you do that. That's what my job is to lift other people up so that they realize that they're powerful, as opposed to trying to increase your own power. We could focus our energy on helping others be powerful. There's an analogy that you can't get to the top of the hill. If you're helping somebody come up the mountain, you have to be like one step ahead of them, pulling them up. And so as we help lift other people, we also, in theory, gain access to our own power. And so that's something that a lot of people leave out of their daily tasks is all about increasing power for self, but really to rise up as a collective species, but even individually, the answer is lifting up others.
I love that. That it's like the transference of energy. When we help someone rise, we get to experience that joy of that illumination.
Right.
So beautiful. Well, again, Ra, I'm just so honored to know you, to be connected. Thank you for sharing your journey, the gyms, I had no idea you were a fighter. It makes sense for some reason, even though that's not something I knew about you. And yes, thank you again. Thank you for being a way shower also for Purium, because I know there's like a whole kit of things that come with that, but the way that you do it is just in such a beautiful way that also makes me excited to continue to support the dream and the vision of your own goals, of the company's goals, and to share how it has influenced my life in nothing but absolutely positive ways. So with that being said, Ra has included a program here for you that you can find in the description below. I'll let him talk about that real quick again before we close this out. And then we'll also have a link so that you can learn a little bit more about Purium if that's something that you want to add into your daily life or your daily protocol. Like I said, I swear by it 8 ways to Sunday. I'm sure Ross swears by it 9 or 10 ways to Sunday. But I'll go ahead and let him share a little bit about the program that is available to you if you'd like to stay connected with his teachings as well.
So there's a discounted program. It's 21 classes. So it's essentially 21 hours of practice of what we were talking about, the journaling exercises. And there's all sorts of different types of practices that are, in my opinion, they're super fun. Some of them are a little heavy, but at the end, it really it changed my life going through these 21 as the person teaching them. And I watched a lot of people change theirs as well, evolve theirs, I should say. So check that out.
Beautiful. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for that. I'm excited to see what opens for me in that way as well. So thank you so much for sharing. It's been an honor to connect with you today, to have this conversation, and I hope for everyone listening it has fueled some bit of inspiration in some way, shape, or form. Be sure to check out the other resources, and otherwise we'll stay connected for the next conversation as well. Have a beautiful day. Mwah!
Thanks, everyone.